I mainly use two decks for my tarot work. I often like to use the Rider-Waite for client work, for readings. And I love this. I use this a lot for myself and for clients who are familiar with the other stuff, the Rider-Waite, the Mythic Tarot. I love this Mythic Tarot pack because it's based on the Greek myths. And I grew up with the Greek myths, and therefore I just love it. I just love I love how Juliet Shaman Burke and Liz Green have woven in the symbolism of the tarot into the Greek myths. And this video is concentrating on the suit of cups, okay? And the suit of cups is to do with the lovely myth of Eros and Psyche. The other pack that I use is an Egyptian, beautiful Egyptian pack, which I shall get out one day and show you some of the cards in that. They're stunning. But today we're going to look at the wonderful Mythic Tarot, the suit of cups, cups relating to love, emotion, relationships, creative flow. And in this Mythic Tarot suit, it basically is very much about relationships, the suit of cups in this Mythic Tarot. And I shall share with you the wonderful story that goes along with the suit of cups, okay? So there you have beautiful Aphrodite. And we're going to go through, so the story is based on, briefly, and then I'll go through them one by one, the cups one by one. The myth of Eros and Psyche is a beautiful love story, not without trials and tribulations. What love affair would be worth anything without trials and tribulations? But the story of Eros and Psyche comes from Aphrodite, said Aphrodite. Ooh, it's all very light here. Let's find a place you can see those. Oh, there we go. It's based on the fact that Aphrodite got a bit miffed because Psyche, the beautiful Psyche, obviously Psyche means soul, was getting a lot of attention from all over the world because she was so beautiful. And Aphrodite was not chuffed about this. Aphrodite was rather miffed that her temples were empty and people were talking about and flocking to see and adoring, worshipping like a goddess, Psyche. So Aphrodite instructs her son, Eros, the god of love, to basically take Psyche to a rock. And Eros is a bit like Cupid, you know, has his arrows. I think Cupid is the Roman. Basically, Eros has his arrows and he shoots an arrow in order to make someone fall in love with whatever they see. And Psyche was to be tied to a rock where a ferocious sea monster, kraken-like thing, lived beneath. And as soon as she saw the monster, Eros was meant to basically shoot her with an arrow and therefore make her fall in love with the monster. And the monster would eat her. Some very, very dark, strange behavioural weirdness going on with those gods and goddesses. It always makes me laugh when you read some of these myths because it's like, you know how they say man was fashioned in the image of God. Well, obviously we know there's the one huge supreme being, but it always makes me laugh because it's like, if it's based on these gods, there's a bit of trouble there because they're all bonkers. Anyway, let's see if we can get a good position. Oh, there we go, that's nice. Okay, so here we have Aphrodite, the ace. Aces are always about an uprush, and in this lovely suit of cups, the uprush here is about Aphrodite. The uprush is about love, the goddess of love herself and beauty and lovely eroticism and just all that gorgeous goddessness. So the ace is about the uprush, the kind of pureness of this emotion of love, relationships, emotions, okay, flowing forward. And Aphrodite has obviously burst forth from the foam of the sea from the castrated genitals of Zeus. Okay, there's a good one to start with. That's the ace. And then we go on to the 2. So the 2 here, you've got basically Eros and Psyche. Here you have Psyche tied to the rock, and Eros is behind her, and he's meant to prick her with this arrow and make her fall in love with the sea monster. But he's already noticed the stunning beauty of Psyche, like everyone does, and is so taken by it. Differs slightly according to different things that you read about this myth, but so taken by her that he kind of stumbles and pricks himself with his own arrow. Strange for a god, wouldn't you say? Who's so gifted in these ways, and falls in love with Psyche. Okay, so the 2 is about the polarized, natural polarization of the original kind of energy. The pure energy then polarizes into, in this case, male and female. And you have attraction, you have magnetism, you have opposites, and you have that kind of yin and yang. And therein, as the supreme energy does, the ultimate energy, it came from the oneness and divided into polarity. The 2 of Cups is about the initial polarizing and attraction of, it can be a business, it can be a creative endeavour, but it can be the real kind of uprush and sudden attraction and magnetism to another. Okay, and there you have it. And then we have this situation. What happens? So Eros, the god of love, has fallen deeply in love because he pricked himself with his own arrow. Strange for something so proficient. Never mind, we won't go there. He's fallen in love with Psyche, and they're getting married at night, as you can see. And there's all the celebrations of the lovely mer people beneath, all holding their cups up in celebration. But the thing to notice here, in this suit of cups in this mythic tarot pack, is that Eros is slightly behind Psyche, because one of the rules they have to stick to is that because Eros is a god and he's fallen in love with a mortal, he is not allowed to be seen by Psyche. And obviously Aphrodite wouldn't be chuffed anyway, because it's her arch enemy for being so beautiful. Strange. You wouldn't think gods would get jealous, or goddesses, would you? Strange, but true, evidently. So here we have a marriage, and it's like this card represents any new beginning that is still in that, the mental phase of falling in love. Or say if you have a baby or you have a new project, and it's like, oh, this is happening and that's happening, and we're doing this and we've got that organised, and it's all so exciting, and the baby's here and it's all lovely, and and so Psyche hasn't seen Eros. She hasn't seen him. She's heard him and she kind of knows he's there and they've communicated, but she's getting married to like an image, a mental image. It's an interesting situation. So the 3 of Cups is about this wonderful completion. You've had the ace, the dividing and into polarity of the 2, and then the 3 is like the initial completion. Oh, we've fallen in love. It's all so lovely. It's all very dandy. We're on a love high, and we're in this wonderful stage of being in love. Okay, that's the 3 in this lovely suit of Mythic Tarot. And as we know, what happens after the honeymoon period, I don't know if you've ever experienced it, you've started a relationship, or you've had a child, or you've done a creative project, and you're all full of beans and excitement, and then in the baby, you're up all night changing nappies and cleaning up vomit, and in new relationships, you suddenly start seeing the person for who they are, and why not? That's who they can be and who they are. And with any creative venture, there's always comes obstacles, and there's always comes, all kinds of stuff. So, in the 4, in the Mythic Tarot, you have Psyche's sisters come to her beautiful palace that she's living in. Her palace is basically served by entities that are invisible, and they give her everything that she wants, any jewels and beautiful furnishings and silver and gold and foods and everything in that beautiful place, that lovely temple by the sea. She has been home and told her sisters about her marriage and her lovers, because she was the last one to get married, and there was all kinds of gossip about that. So her sisters come and see her and fill her mind with suspicion and uncertainty and doubt. They whisper in her ear, what kind of monster must you be married to if you cannot lay your eyes upon his face, and he only comes to you at night? Why doesn't he come to you in the day? Why isn't he around you all the time? There's something very, very suspicious about that. So the Four of Cups is that natural phase after the honeymoon period. It's like, oh, reality seems to have struck, okay? And doubt starts coming, uncertainty, the masks drop, and you start seeing things for what they are, or you even start to doubt things and doubt people and situations, okay? So Psyche has been told when she first met Eros and they got married that she must never look on his face. She must never try and see his face, which obviously doesn't help. And it's that thing about keeping secrets and not quite knowing and what's underneath all this, okay? So that's what the Four is about. The Four of Cups is like, don't know about this. Is this actually true? Is it do I have to worry about this? Is it, it's listen to your instinct, and your instinct is going, there's something a bit fishy about this, okay? So that's the Four. And then the Five, ruination or emotional upset, disappointment in relationships. The cup that runneth over with love and joy and passion is spilt on the floor. Betrayal happens, truth happens. The curtain is drawn back on human behaviour, and people often go against what they said they were going to do. This is the Five of Cups. It's emotional upset, it's disappointment, it's heartbreak in some occasions. Heartbreak and just, oh no, this is terrible. This isn't what I thought at all. And what has happened here is driven on by her sister, and her sisters are only obviously a reflection of her inner curiosity and doubt of never seeing her husband. They've encouraged her to take a look at his face during the night. Excuse me. And so Psyche lights an oil lamp and takes it to have a look at Eros while he's sleeping, and obviously glimpses the most beautiful god that she could ever imagine. But in her astonishment, she basically drops a little bit of oil on his shoulder, and he wakes up, and obviously he flees. Actually, you can see him fleeing from the nuptial bed. She's distraught by her own betrayal. He is also disappointed because she said she never would, but we know what relationships are like. We often say things and then it's like, yeah, okay. So people do things and say things that they didn't really mean to. So that's the Five of Cups here. Psyche loses Eros and the palace and everything that goes with it. Okay, in the night, she loses him. So he disappears. And then we have the Six. She sits there with her limp, bedraggled wedding bouquet, looking into one cup lonely on a rock, reflecting of what has taken place. There's a nostalgia here. The Six of Cups is often about a nostalgia. It can sometimes be related to past loves coming into the life, or emotions from the past welling up, or things of the past about creativity or births that well up and come into the future. But they're there to remind us. They're there for a kind of good reason, to remind us what we've learnt, what we've reflected on. Okay, so their Psyche is on her own. She's lost it all, and she's reflecting on where she's at. But the important thing about the Six of Cups, excuse me, in my opinion, is that it's also, she's learned a lot. She's learned a lot about herself. She's learned a lot about, I promised this and I didn't do it, and he's now gone, and he never told me he was so beautiful. And, you know, there's a lot comes out from telling the truth and being disappointed. And the masks dropping. There's a lot to be said for that, isn't there? There's like, oh, okay, I know where I stand now. And there she is on her own with the Six of Cups. Poor Psyche. So what does she do about it? What would you do about it? What would you do if you had done that? And then it's like, oh, what am I going to do? The Six of Cups. Oh, I made a terrible mistake. I should have just trusted. But she didn't trust and she did it. And now there's work to be done. Okay? Because all is not lost, is it? Relationships are all about the work we put in, aren't they? And so here we have the Seven of Cups. Now, what's happened here in this deck of tarot, in this beautiful Mythic tarot deck, the Ace, and the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, we get to the 7. What is happening here? Psyche has been working with, in the service of Demeter, helping the goddess of the earth, the great goddess of fertility. And basically, Psyche's been working with, helping Demeter, and Demeter suggests that Psyche goes to Aphrodite and asks her for not only forgiveness, but, you know, how can she win Eros back? And Aphrodite sets Psyche a load of huge, epic tasks that seem evidently impossible for her to do in order to win Eros back. Obviously, Aphrodite, being a bit of a bitch, one has to say, has basically made these impossible. But Psyche, having the favour of the gods and goddesses, and all the wonderful spiritual beings that wander around the earth and off the earth, Psyche gets help in completing all of these arduous tasks and manages to complete it. But this Seven of Cups is about, there's a lot of choice and there's a lot of work to be done. There is a lot of work to be done here. The Seven of Cups can often be about having choices and not being distracted and getting on with the hard work. Not to be led down the garden path, but actually put your head down and get on with completing what needs to be completed. Make the choice, don't be distracted. And this is what Psyche has to do. She has to do these arduous tasks, and they're very terrible and very difficult. But she has to do it, and that's what the Seven of Cups is about, making a choice and committing to relationships, to creative projects, and making the choice and taking responsibility for it. Okay, so that's the Seven of Cups. So Psyche gets on with all these arduous tasks that Aphrodite set her. It's funny with women, isn't it? I love seeing how women treat other women in these wonderful myths. How these goddesses get on with other mortals and other goddesses. Oh, they can be quite nasty, but they can also be very supportive. So, after the 7, obviously we have the 8. So what does the 8 mean here? Well, Psyche's done all her arduous tasks that Aphrodite set her. But it never seems enough. She's done it, but nothing seems to be coming of it. And she's not got Eros back, and she's done what she promised. But it all seems so futile. And actually, this card is like a card of, there's no hope. There's no point. There's no, you know, what's the point of any of this? It's not reaping any rewards. It's futile. And so, the last task that Aphrodite sets Psyche is to go down into the underworld, and listen to this. Why? We're talking about Aphrodite here, the goddess of beauty. She thinks she's not quite as perky and as beautiful as she should be. She's been a bit stressed and so looking a little bit peaky. And so she asks Psyche to go into the underworld to see Persephone, because Persephone can give of her beauty and put it in a little box, and then Psyche can bring it up, and Aphrodite can, I don't know, rub it on, inhale it or whatever, and be restored as ultimately beautiful. Strange. You wouldn't think a goddess would think twice about how she looked, would you? But hey, as I say, bonkers. These Greek myths are completely bonkers. Some very disturbing things in those Greek myths, which obviously very much relates to humanity. So basically, here is Psyche turning her back on it all. The Eight of Cups is a card of turning your back. There's like no hope. I've done everything I thought I could do, and now I really have to let go. I really have to totally, properly let go, not with any secret hope. I'm going down into Hades, into the underworld. I'm going to my death, okay? She really believes she's going to die and she will never come back. So, you know, turning your back on something is like a death. And obviously from death comes rebirth. So she descends down the steps to go and see Persephone into the underworld. And because the gods and goddesses and the spirit beings and everyone is looking out for her, she is helped to basically pay the ferryman, Charon, and tells Charon, who drives the boat over the sacred waters of the underworld. So she gets to Persephone without harm. She dodges a few strange underworld monsters, including the three-headed dog, and basically makes it back. Persephone tells her not to open the box. Why do you just know that she just had to open the box? Why? Because she did. And then, well, I won't go into that story. A big black miasma comes out of the box and basically takes her life. So, basically takes her life. Anyway, it's a big story. She gets it back. Eros comes and saves her. Blah, blah, blah. Shouldn't say blah, 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 but yeah, she makes it back with a box of beauty for Aphrodite. Aphrodite is very pleased. Okay. Then what happens? We have the Nine of Cups. This is where, after seeing how determined and what Psyche does for love to win Eros back, Aphrodite then gives her blessings to the marriage. And this time they are being blessed by the goddess Aphrodite. They are facing each other. All the dark secrets have been acknowledged, and the growth from knowing each other, the betrayals, the loss, the despair, the disappointment, the letting go, the giving up of the 8, basically is rewarded in the 9, where you have this fantastic celebration of real face-to-face love, a more mature love, a more realised love that has really been through some trials and tribulations. So the 9 is a very positive card of recognising the love and being blessed by Aphrodite herself. In the 10, the completion of these numbered cards, you see that Psyche has been made immortal by the gods. Eros petitioned the gods and basically asked if Psyche could be made immortal and join him in Olympia and in the realms of the gods. So this card, and she is granted it, as you can see by her wings and his wings. And this card is about the endurance of relationships and projects and creativity born of that hard work and endurance and going through the trials and tribulations and getting to a point of real success. And this is a long-standing commitment now. This is a kind of contentment and like I say, a relationship that goes on, that is solid, built on a very interesting, solid foundation of polarity and the ups and downs of life. And now here they are with their immortality in the realms of the gods. Isn't that a lovely story? So that's the Mythic Tarot, the numbered cards. And I will quickly go over the court cards. So we have the page is related to Narcissus. So Narcissus was a young boy who was born with incredible beauty that everybody wanted to possess. He was courted by men and women alike because he was so beautiful, and everyone wanted to, have him and kiss him and hold him and have them in their lives. Narcissus's mother basically forbid him to ever see himself. So he'd never seen his own reflection, and one day he'd been on a long walk and he was exhausted, and he came across this pure, untouched river, stream, which was a nice pool of water, had made a nice pool of water. And he sat down in order to drink from the stream, and basically saw for the first time his own reflection and fell in love with it, and sat staring at himself for many, many hours and days and weeks, and tried to possess himself, and didn't eat or drink. And eventually he stabbed himself, and where the blood spilled on the land, the narcissus flowers sprang up. And the moral of the tale, as narcissistic as it seems, is basically about self-love. In this pack, it's about self-love, and it's about how you can't give of love until you love yourself. Obviously not to the obsessive point of Narcissus, but that real staring and understanding the self is such an important part of any basic relationship. To love of the self, to be able to love the self before you try and love someone else. Because as we know, people often project their own lack into other relationships, and within relationships, people always rely on someone else to fulfill what they haven't searched for themselves. So the page in this pack represents a narcissist, and basically his self-love, his obsession with himself, and people's obsession with him. But eventually the baseline is the love of self, understanding the love of self, but not too much, until you just stare at yourself in the mirror for weeks on end. The Knight of Cups in this beautiful pack is Perseus, is represented by Perseus. And Perseus was a bit of a lover man, but not in a kind of outrageous way. Perseus loved the feminine, loved divine feminine, loved women, loved ideal romanticism. He did another one that did many arduous initiation journeys and tasks and epic adventures in order to find and help and destroy women. He came across all aspects of divine feminine, from the darkest Gorgon, whose head he managed to cut off, and to helping maidens in distress. And he just loved, he bowed down to women. The Knight of Cups is that ultimately romantic, a real man who basically bows down at the feet of women. He's a lover, he's a romancer. In some packs, he is like a real dandy, a seducer and whatever. But in this pack, he just loves the divine feminine. He represents that aspect of divine feminine and bowing down before, the women and the love and the romance of pure love and sexual love. But he was such a champion of the feminine energy, which I love. And going on from that, the Queen in this pack is represented by this beautiful goddess in her fantastic throne and turquoise garments. In this myth, she's represented as Helen of Troy. So this was a woman who was beguiling with incredible beauty, who just, men swooned over and fought over. And she was she liked the attention. She often partook of the attention of men. She often would entertain them sensually, and men would go mad over having Helen. And as you know, it was a face that launched 1,000 ships, because Paris was fighting over the king of Sparta, and they all wanted to have their mitts on this beautiful goddess. And hey, she actually did quite like this. She was a bit of a Lilith figure. So the Queen of Cups is like a sensual woman, an emotional woman, a woman who knew her guile and her wiles and knew how to use them. So the Queen of Cups, if she comes into a reading, is like, wow, okay, this is a woman who's beautiful and sensual and knows what she wants and knows how to get it, okay, but is emotionally competent and can help others and guide others. A very kind of emotionally sensitive and tuned woman. And last but not least, we have the King of Cups, represented in this pack by Orpheus, a bit of a similar character to Chiron, the wounded healer. So Orpheus was a beautiful musician who sung his way through many ordeals and could mesmerize and mystify people with his beautiful singing and music. But he often guided people, healed people. He was a priest, a healer, and but he was a man who couldn't quite give to himself what he gave to others. But the King of Cups is a solid counselling type of figure. He's creative, he's gifted, he listens, but it can be someone who doesn't quite manage to give himself what he gives to others. And Orpheus ended up being torn to pieces because Dionysus was jealous of him and his beautiful voice and his beautiful ability. And so there's those gods for you again. He was buried in a place where the nightingales sing like no other creature on earth. So that's the Mythic Tarot. Well, that's the suit of cups anyway. So I thought I'll do the other suits, obviously, but I hope you enjoyed that. How the imagery and the information of the myths fit in with that pack, because I think it's absolutely brilliant. So I hope you enjoy that, and I will do a little reading with this pack on some subject, and then you can see how it works, and I'll bring some of the other ones in too.